Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Numerics with Nadia. In today's video, we're going to go over an introduction to exponents. For our lesson today, I'll be writing some learning objectives. First off, we will go through and we will define exponents and explain their purpose in math. Then we will move on, we will write numbers in both exponential form and expanded form, and we'll learn and understand what exponential form is and what expanded form is. Then we'll move on to our third learning objective. We will evaluate simple exponential expressions, and then we'll move on to our last learning objective, which will be to understand the basic rules of exponents. So we'll learn what the product rule is, we'll learn what power of a power is, as well as some other exponential rules that we will use in our practice section for today. But to start, let's start off with our first learning objective, and let's go through and define what exponents are and what their purpose is in math. So what is an exponent? An exponent or power, just know that you can use both terms, they mean the same thing. An exponent or a power is a mathematical operation that shows repeated multiplication. So that's all it means. The whole concept of an exponent is just writing out repeated multiplication in a different way. So what is the notation? The notation consists of two parts. You have your base, which I have here in green, and your exponent, which I have here in purple. So B is our base, N is our exponent. How would we say this? The B to the N, right? Or how we would say and speak this notation is B to the N means B raised to the power of N. So feel free to write this explanation in your notebook. And now that we've gone over what the definition of an exponent is, let's get into exponential form versus expanded form. What are they and what do they look like? So let's say we were given 3 to the power of 4, right? Or 3 raised to the 4th power. How would we expand this? How would this look like? What does this mean? Well, our base is 3 and our exponent is 4. So that just means 3 times itself 4 times. So the expanded form of 3 to the 4th power is just 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, right? 4 threes. And let's do one more example of this. What if we are given the expanded form? How would we write it in exponential form? So if we were given 7 times 7 times 7 times 7, how would we write this in exponential form? Well, we have 4 sevens, and 7 is our base. So that would just be 7 to the power of 4 for exponential form. And now that we've done some practice going from exponential form to expanded form, both directions, let's get into some key rules of exponents. So for this section, we're going to learn 3 important introductory rules for exponents. The first one is the multiplication rule. So let's say that we had a number with base b and exponent x, and we had a number with base b and exponent y. If these numbers were to be multiplied together, since they have the same base, what we would do when we multiply them together is add their exponents. So that's the multiplication rule. Now we'll get into the power of a power rule. So if you had a number with an exponent inside parentheses, so for this example, b to the power of x, and that set of parentheses was also raised to another exponent of y, what you would do to simplify it is you would take b to the x and multiply that additional exponent. So it would be b to the x times y. So that's the power of a power rule. And our last rule is the zero exponent rule. So any number, any base, as long as it's not 0, so any base to the power of 0 will give you 1. So be very, very thorough in understanding this and writing these down in your notes. Feel free to rewind this section just to make sure that you have a very strong understanding of these 3 rules, because they will be very helpful and necessary when we get into our next section of today's lesson, which will be our practice problems. So now that we've defined what exponents are, how to go from exponential form to expanded form, and that we've gone over those few basic rules of exponents. Now we can get into our practice section for today. The directions for our practice section say to simplify or evaluate the following. So we're going to put together everything that we've learned so far in simplifying and evaluating these practice questions. So for number 1, we have 2 to the power of 3. And in order to evaluate this, we're going to have to expand it. So 2 to the power of 3, our base is 2, our exponent is 3. That just means we are multiplying 2 by itself 3 times. So it would be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. We know that 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So 8 would be our answer for number 1. And now we will move on to our second practice problem for today. For number 2, we have 5 to the power of 0. Now, the way we'll simplify this one is by remembering our 0 exponent rule. Anything to the 0 power is 1, so the answer to number 2 would be 1. And now we'll move on to number 3. For number 3, we have 3 to the power of 2, or 3 squared, times 3 to the power of 3, or 3 cubed. What do we do when we're multiplying numbers with the same base? We will add their exponents. So for 3 squared times 3 cubed, we will go ahead and add the 2 plus the 3. And when we do that, we get 3 to the power of 5. Now we still need to evaluate this. 3 to the power of 5 is just 3 times itself 5 times. So we will expand that out to 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. We know that 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 3 is 9, and then that 1 3 will come down. We know that 9 times 9 is 81, so our answer will be 81 times 3, which gives us 243. So 243 is our answer for number 3. And now we'll move on to our fourth practice question. For number 4, we have 2 to the third power to the second power. So this is a power of a power. The inner base will stay the same, and then we will multiply our powers together. So it'll be 2 to the power of 3 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6, so it would be 2 to the power of 6. And then we'll go ahead and expand that out. 2 to the power of 6 is the same as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. If we go through and start to evaluate this, we will end up getting 64 as our answer. So 64 is our answer for number 4. And now we'll move on to our fifth practice question for today. For number 5, we have 10 to the power of 0, and we know that anything to the 0 power is just 1. So the answer to number 5 would be 1. And now we'll move on to our sixth practice question. For number 6, we have 4 to the power of 3 times 4. So what does this mean? 4 to the power of 3 will stay the same. That 4 has an exponent of 1. So what we would do, since we're multiplying these numbers, is we would add our exponents. So it would be 4 to the power of 3 plus 1, which would give us 4 to the power of 4. We'll go through and expand that out. 4 to the power of 4 is 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. We know that that would simplify into 16 times 16. And 16 times 16 gives us 256. So 256 would be our answer for number 6. And now we'll move on to number 7. For number 7, we have parentheses 3 to the power of 2, and that whole thing cubed. So again, we have power to a power here. We will multiply our exponents together. 3 to the power of 2 times 3 would give us 3 to the power of 6. When we expand that out, we'll have 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And when we multiply that out, we end up getting 81 times 9. And 81 times 9 gives us an answer of 729. So that is our answer, and that is our last practice problem for today. I know this lesson was way longer. We had a lot of learning targets and learning objectives. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope it made sense for you guys. Please feel free to comment any questions or any other video topics you would like to see down below. Feel free to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, share this video with a friend, and I will see you guys next time.